Republican nominee for U.S. Senate, Ed Gillespie. Hey, Ed, great to have you with us.
Thanks, John. Good to be with you, too.
Hey, Ed, I want to get right to the number one issue that we are getting phone calls, text, emails, and tweets probably now about 250 to 1, and that is what many people say as the lack of sovereignty that we have as a country in the South, the invasion, if you will, of all these illegals coming over every day, the minors asking for asylum under the Dianne Feinstein law written in 2008. How do we stop it?
Well, a number of things. One, it just reinforces what I have been saying throughout this campaign, that we not only have a right but a responsibility to secure our border. And, you know, when President Obama mocked Republicans for saying we needed more secure border security, it's an indication that he wasn't taking it seriously. We saw the report in the Washington Post over the weekend that they'd had ample warning to prepare for this, and they didn't prepare for this. And we have to secure our border. And, you know, I'm hopeful that if I'm elected to the United States Senate, we'll be able to do that.
Hey, Ed, the president requested $3.7 billion from Congress to deal with this crisis. Already Democrats have changed it. But I think what is disturbing to people, not a dime to fix the problem. I mean, it's almost, it defies logic.
Well, there's no doubt about that, and it's revealing, I think, in that the president, doesn't recognize the problem. And, of course, this is a problem largely of his own making. It's, we saw this spike occur after he made the announcement that we weren't going to enforce our laws against young people who had come here illegally or been brought here illegally, in more fairness. And that sent a signal to people that they read to mean, come on in and you can get citizenship here in the United States. And when you don't have a secure border to keep out people from coming here illegally, that's one of the unintended consequences of this kind of abuse of executive authority to implement a policy like that without having the input of both chambers of Congress, both parties. This is the outcome you get.
Ed, do you think that the governor of Texas, Rick Perry, did the right thing by finally deploying in the National Guard?
I think he did the right thing for the people of Texas. They're the ones most directly affected by this. That's why you see a bipartisan bill from two members of Congress from Texas, Senator John Cornyn, a Republican, and Congressman Henry Cuellar, a Democrat, putting forward a plan that would address this problem. I support that legislation. We should not be treating the people of Guatemala, Honduras, or El Salvador, or other Central American countries differently than we're applying our standards to people from Canada or Mexico.
Right.
And I think that Senator Perry was responding to the needs of the people of Texas, and he was seeing that President Obama was not going to respond to the needs of the people of the United States in addressing this problem in a very direct and immediate fashion.
Ed, let's get to the 70 or 80,000, if you will, minors, migrants that are in the U.S. right now that the federal government is trying to fan out to states within the U.S. For the number that are not eligible for asylum under the way the law is written, are you in favor of sending them home?
Well, that's one of the things that the Cornyn-Cuellar bill would address. And look, I believe that the compassionate thing to do here is to, one, make clear to parents in Central America, don't send your children on this treacherous journey and turn them over to these coyotes to bring them 1,000 miles through treacherous territory and at high risk, because they're not going to be able to stay here. And I think the compassionate thing to do for these children is to reunite them with their family and with their families in their country of origin.
If I can move to the international scene, I want to get to the Malaysian airline shot down, 297 souls gone. It's now clear to, I think, everybody in the world that the shoot-down missile apparatus was supplied by Vladimir Putin's government. If you were a U.S. Senator right now, if you were on the Foreign Relations Committee, how do you think the United States ought to respond to Putin?
Well, I think we need to move forward with very tough sanctions, and that includes sanctions in the banking sector, including those that would affect Vladimir Putin himself personally, directly. I also believe that this is a moment of moral clarity, and President Obama should take that moment and rally the support of Western European leaders to join in sanctions. I also think it reinforces the need once again to lift the antiquated export ban on liquefied natural gas from this country, which would help us meet the needs of those Western European countries and reduce Vladimir Putin's leverage over them and their economies. And it's time we did that. We should have done it a while ago. It's an antiquated bill dating back to the days of the energy crisis in the 70s. And these are the kinds of policies that we've got to implement. But it also reinforces the need, John, for the United States to play a leadership role in the world. And we have receded from a leadership role in the world under this president. We all know that their own description of their approach to foreign policy is leading from behind. There's another word for that, and that word is following. And when the United States recedes from a leadership role in the world becomes a more dangerous place, and we're seeing that everywhere today.
Ed, there's some Democrats now starting to get very upset with Israel. I got to play you this clip from Madeleine Albright and get your take.
But the bottom line is, I think that this is hurting Israel's moral authority. I do think that it looks as though they are overdoing, which is why I think there has to be more emphasis on the fact that they have accepted the ceasefire, and then try to figure out who has any influence over Hamas in order to get them to accept a ceasefire. They say they will not accept until the rockets stop, and the bottom line is they have to. That's the only way to stop everything, is to have a ceasefire.
Is she onto something, Ed, or is that pure gibberish?
Look, Israel has a right to defend itself. And the fact that Hamas was shooting rockets into Israel designed to create terror, they were not targeted toward military facilities, but were intended to harm civilians. The only reason they didn't is because of Israel's Iron Dome defense system. Mm-hmm. And as we know, Hamas, they shield their missiles and their military capabilities with their own civilians,
right.
And so the notion that Israel is somehow there's a moral equivalency here of lobbing rockets indiscriminately to kill people from Hamas into Israel, and Israel trying to stop them from doing that and countering civilians in the process after having given days of warning that they were going to implement this operation and Hamas keeping civilians there to protect their military capabilities. I don't see the same moral equivalency. I just don't. Now, I do hope there's a ceasefire. I hope that we're able to, help facilitate that. But I don't believe Israel will accommodate a ceasefire unless they're assured that they're able to protect their own people.
Now, Ed, I have to ask you this also. The United States government is funding the Palestinian government, which is a coalition between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas. If you were in the U.S. Senate right now, does it make any sense for us to be funding Hamas?
Not to be funding Hamas, no, not at all.
So you would be in favor of cutting that out. I want to go to Syria. President Obama asking for $500 million to fund the Syrian rebels. And but we're not quite sure who we're fighting. We saw that with the Ukrainian separatists. Is that something that you would be interested in pursuing or not?
It is. I want to make sure that we've properly vetted, who it is that we're helping. Mm-hmm. And we're late to the game in that regard. This administration has been incredibly slow in coming to terms with what's going on in Syria and the effect that what's happening in Syria is affecting what's happening in Iraq, and could have, obviously affecting Jordan and other states in the region. But look, I think we need to help Syrian rebels that we have determined would be good actors, not bad actors in the process. And my understanding is that we're a little slow in implementing that process of vetting who would be on the receiving end of our help and support.
We've got 2 more minutes with Ed Gillespie, Republican nominee for U.S. Senate in Virginia. Ed, Keystone Pipeline, you've come out with a pretty significant energy policy. Can you share with our audience how that differs from Mark Warner?
Well, it differs a number of ways. First, I would try to stop this rule from EPA that is going to have an incredibly damaging impact in Southwest Virginia and our coal mines there. Also going to have a damaging impact in terms of our own electric bills and our gasoline prices as well. Second, I would work hard to lift the moratorium on drilling off our deep sea coast here in Virginia, which would have a very beneficial effect in terms of high-paying jobs in the Hampton Roads area, as well as revenue to our state treasury. And I would fight to get the Keystone XL pipeline approved on 2 different occasions when it came to an opportunity to move it forward to a vote on the Senate floor. Mark Warner sided with Harry Reid and blocked it from going forward, despite saying that he's for it. But when the time came to vote, he wasn't there for it, and I would be there for it. As I said, I also believe we need to lift the antiquated ban on liquefied natural gas and domestic crude oil as well. And I think we need to allow for more expedited siting processes. And there's a very clear distinction here between Senator Warner's approach and mine when it comes to unleashing American energy, which would create high-paying jobs and bring down the price of energy for consumers.
All right, Ed, we're out of time. That's going to be the final word. Ed, for those of our listeners that want for more information on your campaign or your candidacy or your positions on issues, Ed, where do they go?
They can go to edforsenate.com, and they can also text Ed, ED, to 67076, Ed to 67076 to get more updates. And one other point I should make, John, in terms of that EPA rule, Mark Warner supports cap-and-trade legislation and imposing a carbon tax, and I don't. And that's a very clear distinction as well, and you can find that on my website on the EG Squared, Ed Gillespie's Agenda for Economic Growth page, and see what I'm for when it comes to and specifically energy policy, but also see the priorities when it comes to replacing Obamacare with market-oriented policies that work and providing for tax and regulatory relief, education reform, and cutting wasteful spending to balance our budget.
Well, all right, Ed, we want to thank you for your time and for being with us today. Republican U.S. Senate candidate Ed Gillespie running against a Democratic incumbent Mark Warner. And don't forget Warner and Ed. Mark Warner and Ed will be debating on Saturday. That'll be streamed live, and I'll put out that info. Thanks, Ed. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Great to be with you, John.